This presentation, titled Auditor Attributes Which Contribute to a Successful Audit, comes to us from Frank Kane. Frank worked for Honeywell in Clearwater, Florida for 40 years on aerospace NASA contracts, bringing the ISO 9001 and AS 9100 quality management systems to the site. Serving as the management representative, Frank implemented the QMS infrastructure, was chairman of the Procedure Steering Committee, and was the father of the company's root cause and corrective action processes. Frank teaches an ISO 9001, ISO 14001 course at the University of South Florida for the College of Industrial Engineering, is a lead ISO 9001 and AS 9100 auditor, consultant, and trainer, and authored the books QMS Made Easy to Understand and Apply, and 6 Easy Steps for Organizational Self-Transitions to AS 9100D. And with that, take it away, Frank.
Welcome to Auditor Attributes Which Contribute to a Successful Audit. My name is Frank Kane, and I am your presenter. This presentation is intended as a refresher for the seasoned auditor and to provide a skill set for the new auditor. 11 attributes will be discussed along with recommended proven implementation strategies based on my long auditing and consulting experience. The following attributes will be discussed: organization and planning, effective listening, verbal and written communications, conflict management, body language, good eye contact, putting the auditee at ease, time management, focus on the process, bias awareness, and show empathy. As a note, some of the slides will be quite busy. I've intentionally put information in there to be used as a reference by the new auditor. The first attribute is organization and planning. It is evident that the auditor needs to demonstrate good organization and planning skills during the opening audit meeting with the organization and throughout the audit. Certainly, it is evident that starting off late, being unprepared, lacking of leadership and communication skills will definitely be seen by the organization. Remember, first impressions matter the most. So as strategies, start the meeting on time, circulate the attendance sheet, make sure the organization and yourself have the same current copy of the audit schedule, have the applicable standards available. Most important, be familiar with the organization's processes. Know the required topics to be covered in the opening meeting and answers to frequently asked questions, like when will I receive my updated certificate? Speak clearly with confidence. Make good eye contact. Actively listen to their questions. Smile. Appear relaxed. Certainly do not cross your arms or play with your cell phones. Conclude the opening meeting on time. Remember, the management team has other meetings and tasks to tend to. Effective listening. This is a problem that most people have, including myself. We have a tendency to think of the next audit question while the auditee is still responding to the first question. When we do this, we miss part of the auditee's answer. So as a strategy, it's important, instead of thinking about the next question, focus exclusively on what you are hearing. Observe the auditee's body language, their facial expressions, and the inflection of their voice. This way you receive the full communication. I have noted a reference to what I believe a well-done audio cassette workshop program entitled Listen and Be Listened To. It's the third edition published by the American Management Association. I found it very helpful. Verbal and written communications. The verbal attribute is vital for an effective opening, any splinter and closing meetings, and when conducting face-to-face auditing. Now, to improve your verbal presentation skills, I recommend joining a Toastmasters club near where you live. I've included on the slide the website address for Toastmasters. When you open that up, in the top right-hand corner, you'll find the search engine. If you put in your local area, they will identify all the clubs and what dates and times they meet. I am a distinguished Toastmaster. I felt that the skill set was of great value to me. It was handy as when I served at Honeywell as the site manager of quality compliance, when I've conducted over 250 third-party audits, consulting assignments, and as guest speakers at various symposia and conferences. I highly recommend Toastmasters. Now, going along with verbal is written communication skills. You will need those when preparing a non-conformance report and the final audit report. In 1974, while working at Honeywell as an engineer, I was called into my supervisor's office. He was a gentleman from the Middle East, short, little stubby, dark, tight hair. We went into his office that was about a 6x6. And he said, "Frank, closed door. Frank, you are a good engineer, but terrible writer. I know. I recently take English writing class." Well, I felt terrible about that. I had just completed at the University of South Florida a master's degree with honors. And where is he coming to say that I can't write? Well, I took a close look at what I was writing. In truth, he was right on target. I hated to write, absolutely hated it. All I could do was put my name on it and I was stuck. And so I decided, what am I going to do? Am I going to take a course? No, I don't think so. So I decided to do the following, which is noted in strategy 2. I started using small, short sentences so I couldn't get in trouble with grammar. And I remembered that each word I used painted a picture. So if I wanted to effectively communicate, I had to paint the correct picture. Conflict management. From time to time during an audit, an auditor and the management rep may disagree on an issue. Arguing is not an acceptable approach. It not only creates a void, but it also costs you lost audit time. When the management representative agrees, I recommend that we table the issue until later in the day. By this time, both parties seem to have an air of communication, enabling resolution of the issue and concurrently saving the relationship. Not too long ago, I participated in an ADAB witness audit of a local company here in the Tampa Bay area. During the audit, the management rep and I disagreed on how to properly disposition a non-conformance report. I could see from the conversation that it was going nowhere quick, so with his concurrence, we tabled it until later in the day. During that lapsed time, he had an opportunity to think about what I was saying. And when we got together again in the afternoon splinter meeting, he was full agreement. And so it went very smoothly. And we maintained our relationship. And what's more, since this was an ANAB witnessed audit, they have a separate debriefing after the company closing meeting is done. And I received an accolade for how I handled it. Body language, also known as nonverbal communication. Everyone recognizes that when you're audited, for whatever reason, you'll feel nervous, hands may be clammy, maybe a little jittery, all body language. If you can tell if an auditee is telling the truth if he or she makes good eye contact with you. If they look down or look away, it basically says they're not sure of their answer. And everyone knows if they sit there with their arms crossed, they're basically telling you, I'm closed to whatever you are saying. Doesn't matter. That's not a good situation and you have to overcome it. On the other hand, the auditor's nonverbal behaviors, the gestures we make, our tone of voice, our posture, our eye contact are all strong messages. Our body languages can also build trust or push you away. Did you ever know sometimes people will say yes and their head will shake no? That's body language. Also, it's important as an auditor to be aware that when you are auditing an auditee, your physical location relative to theirs is very important. If you are standing next to them and above them, it will feel intimidating to them. What you need to do is you need to sit at the same level in a chair, move slightly forward, and make good eye contact. So most important as strategies for body language is that the auditor needs to put the auditee at rest, at ease immediately as you start the audit. That the auditor's physical position makes a difference. Be aware of that. That the auditor himself or herself needs to be aware of their body language. They need to make good eye contact and actively listen to the auditee. Smile. Appear relaxed, and certainly don't cross your own arms. The auditor to observe the auditee's body language through the audit. And certainly there are books and articles. I have one reference there called Body Language by Julius Fast. I found it to be very interesting and informative. Several years ago, I was at an audit. It was a registration audit at a company in Huntsville, Alabama. As I was auditing the production line, I audited one lady who did just fine answering my audit questions. And then just as it closed, she used her body language to look to the management rep who was standing by for confirmation that she did okay. I noted to her that I had seen that body language. She felt that that had caused the audit to fail. It hadn't. It was just a comment that I had made, but she was certainly worried. When the audit was entirely done, and during the closing meeting, I briefed the management team. The owner said, Frank, I'd like you to go out on the floor. We're going to gather all the organization at large, and you'll present the results to them. And so I did, and I explained to all the production people as well that it was through them following procedure, knowing what to do with non-conforming material, having a good work environment, following work ethics, that this audit was successful and that I was recommending the company for registration. Well, as soon as I finished talking, this same lady ran up to me and hugged me. She was almost in tears, happy that she had not caused the audit to fail. Good eye contact. Now, making good eye contact is important. It doesn't imply that you stare at the auditee, but rather frequently look at them during your conversation. Even in Toastmasters, when we make formal presentations, making good eye contact is an effective technique for holding audience attention. When I get up to speak and I'm standing at the lectern, I take a few moments to just scan with my eyes across the audience, trying to make contact with as many people as I can. Eye contact, it is. To you as the presenter, it may seem like a century, but in actuality, it only takes a few moments. So the strategy here is to practice making good eye contact during conversations with family and friends who you feel you're comfortable and you become accustomed to doing it. It will enhance your listening skill since it will capture the person's facial expressions along with their verbal message. Putting the auditee at ease. From what we've already said, this is very important. We recognize that audits are always stressful, and we even have a little voice within us that in this particular case will make us feel scared and uncertain. It'll say, what if I say something that's incorrect? I will look stupid in front of my peers. I may lose my job. I may lose my upcoming promotion. These are all real life concerns and they go on in your head. Now, a technique that I have developed and used for those 250 plus audits has worked very, very successful for me. I basically upfront tell the auditee that I am not auditing her or him, but rather auditing their process and that I need their assistance to verify process compliance to requirements. It works every time. Auditees will calmly explain their processes to me. They'll provide me with whatever objective evidence I request, and they even volunteer suggestions for continual improvement. Time management. We recognize that the audit schedule defines a fixed amount of time for the audit. This allocation enables you sufficient time to ask your audit questions, to gather objective evidence, to determine if the process is compliant to requirements, and to identify any non-conformances. If the auditor arrives late, it not only increases the auditee's anxiety level, but there is an opportunity lost to the company. After all, the auditee is not doing the productive work that he or she would normally do, not only while he or she is waiting for the auditor, but during the audit itself. So the strategies here is for the auditor to coordinate the date and time of the audit early, make good travel plans and allow time for unexpected delays. You don't want to be late to a company. Now, one time I had a problem. I had to audit a company out in Waco, Texas. This was for a surveillance audit. I flew out from Tampa to Dallas, Fort Worth, but the plane was late coming in and I missed my connecting puddle jumper. So I had to get a rental car from Dallas and drive straight down to Waco. Not sure exactly where I was going, heavy rainstorm, Didn't stop for a restroom break or for lunch or dinner. And I drove and I drove and I drove, and I got there at 11 o'clock at night, a motel, Holiday Inn. I was so exhausted you wouldn't believe it. And so I got up early in the morning to make sure that I would not be late to their facility in the outskirts of Waco. I left at 6:30 in the morning for a 7:30 start time. I drove along, and the fields out there were just barbed wire on both sides, as open and as far as you could see. And then I approached a fork in the road, dirt roads to the left or to the right. At this point, there's no cell phones, there's no signs, there's no nothing. And I figured if I took the wrong path, I would be late. I had to go the right way. And this may seem silly, but there were 2 cows off to the left standing there. And I figured better than tossing a coin, I'd take a chance. And I asked the cows which way to the company I was going to. And one of them tipped her head to the left and went, moo. I said, it's a chance. And I drove that direction. And sure enough, I got there on time. But you could see it's important to allow enough time so that you arrive, which is supposed to be at that time. The auditor is to go ahead and take some time management courses if they would so like to. I have a good reference there, How to Get Control of Your Life and Your Time. I found that also to be very informative. And to remember that good planning is not only a good time management tool, it's essential for a successful audit. Focus on the process. We've been talking about this all along, not on the auditee. Audits are intended to verify the organization process and procedures comply with requirements, to determine process effectiveness, and to identify any non-conformances. As strategies, make sure you're well-versed on the processes you audit. That is so important, because if you don't know what's going on, the auditee will do rings around you. Remember to review the results of the prior audits. This will enable you to see what non-conformances were identified, and also afford you the opportunity to assess the effectiveness of their implemented corrective actions. Use the process-based auditing approach. Always use open-ended questions like show me or explain. Gather sufficient objective evidence, which is a representative sample, to enable you to make fact-based decisions. And remember, being prepared for an audit cannot be overstated. Bias, another good attribute. The auditor's judgment can be negatively affected by his or her conscious and unconscious bias. Therefore, we must be aware of bias and how to prevent them from influencing our judgment. That's why the standards, the international standards, specify that auditors be impartial and objective. For conscious bias, there are things such as bias towards people of color, sexual orientation, age, race, dress style, origin, not wanting to work with younger people, culture. There are laws to prevent such prejudices. And I'd like to believe that people today know better. Unconscious bias, that's having a natural bias towards others' views or opinions. The danger here is that the auditor may not even be aware that's affecting his or her judgment. Another separate example is if an auditor considers his client very credible and they make a statement, the auditor is likely to rely on their explanation rather than requesting data to verify it. So the strategies here is the auditor must be knowledgeable and aware of each type of bias. He must focus on remaining objective and impartial when conducting audits and make decisions based only on facts, not emotions. Auditors are encouraged to read articles so as to become more aware of these different types of biases and how they do influence us. Showing empathy. Now, empathy is not pretending to feel something. It's about putting yourself in the other person's shoes by connecting with their point of view, thoughts, and feelings about the situation. Everyone recognizes, and I've said several times, that audits are stressful. The associated stress affects the auditee's concentration and their ability to respond to your questions. So you have to really put them at ease. There are auditees that may have a disability or may be overwhelmed from their work overload. And now they're going to be spending time, what they feel is extra time, responding to your audit questions. Or they may even have a language barrier. So as strategies, we need to show empathy, sincere empathy, towards the auditee throughout the audit. Putting them at ease again, right up front, goes a long way. We must be patient, understanding, and exercise effective listening. Show sincere interest. Be encouraging and supportive. As an example, the auditee has a nervous stutter. Think, how would you handle it? In summary, I just wanted to say the auditor's understanding of each of these attributes, and if he applies the proven strategies, will go a long way to ensure an effective audit. For any questions or comments, you can direct them to me. My contact information appears on the bottom of this slide.
Thank you, Frank Kane, for your perspective on the attributes that contribute to successful audits. That concludes this presentation.